The galaxy knew her name. Amara Draegan, the daughter of Captain Kael Dragan, was known throughout the stars, not for her beauty or intelligence, though she possessed both, but because she was the child of the deadliest human alive. In a universe where humanity was considered a strange anomaly, small, fragile compared to other species, Kale Dragan defied the expectations, rising to power as one of the most dangerous beings in existence. Even the Valanaar War Council, the most feared ruling body in the galaxy, learned to tread carefully around Dragan. But Kale Dragan had a weakness. He had one thing he loved more than battle, one person he would do anything to protect: his daughter, Amara. The mistake of a lifetime. When the pirates of the Crimson Blade took Amara, they didn't realize their mistake. They had snatched her out of a crowded marketplace on Circon 4, thinking she was just another wealthy civilian with enough ties to powerful beings to pay a hefty ransom. Amara tried to reason with them, even as they bound her wrists and threw her into the dank cell of their ship. She told them who her father was, hoping the name alone would trigger a moment of sanity. Kael Dragan, their captain, a lizard-like Vithorian named Lursk, merely sneered. "Your father is nothing but a legend human, and we don't fear myths." In her cell, as the ship rattled through the galaxy, Amara could only hope they would figure out their mistakes sooner rather than later. Kael Dragan wasn't known for patience, and when he found out what had happened to his daughter, there would be no place in the galaxy far enough to hide. The Hunter's Wrath. Kael Dragan was sitting in the captain's chair of his battleship, the Black Reaver, when the message came through. The sight of the Crimson Blade's red insignia sent a hot rush of fury through his veins, and the sight of his daughter's pale, bound form ignited it into an inferno. "This is Captain Lursk of the Crimson Blade," the lizard's voice rasped. "We have your daughter, Dragan. I suggest you come quietly and pay our price, or she may suffer some unpleasant consequences." There was a pause. Lursk must have expected Kael to be rattled, to beg for mercy. Kael's voice, however, was dangerously calm. "You have precisely two options, Lursk," he said, his voice low and steady. "Release my daughter and disappear from the galaxy, or I will come for you, and you will wish for death long before I'm through." Lursk sneered. "Then come for us, Dragan," he taunted, cutting off the transmission. Kael's eyes narrowed, his lips pulling into a grim line. They wanted a nightmare, he thought. They would get one. The hunt begins. As the Black Reaver tore through hyperspace, Kael began his preparations. He contacted every ally, called in every favor. From the mercenaries on the fringes to the assassins on Eldera Prime, the message was simple. Anyone who could offer information on the Crimson Blade's whereabouts would be rewarded. Anyone who aided them would face his wrath. It didn't take long. In a matter of hours, Kael had the location of Lursk's hideout, a space station on the edge of the galaxy, obscured by a nebula. It was a dangerous place, home to criminals and pirates who thought themselves untouchable. Kael Dragan, however, was bringing them a lesson in fear. The storm descends. When the Black Reaver arrived, the Crimson Blade's sentries sounded the alarm. Pirates scrambled for weapons, but Kael moved with an efficiency that made each resistance futile. His crew, battle-hardened veterans who had served with him through countless campaigns, moved like a tide of destruction through the station, sweeping aside the pirates like they were nothing more than leaves caught in a hurricane. Kael was at the front, his gaze fixed, cold as the void of space itself. Lursk tried to muster his defenses, but they fell, each wall breached, each soldier falling. The fear in his eyes grew as Kael's inexorable approach carved a path toward him. Finally, Kael reached the cell block where they were holding his daughter. "Father!" Amara gasped, her relief palpable as the lock disintegrated under Kael's blade. He rushed to her, and for the first time in days she felt safe. He gently touched her face, relief and rage mingling in his eyes. "I'm here, Amara," he murmured. "You're safe now." But then his gaze hardened as he turned back to the corridor, where Lursk stood, flanked by his remaining soldiers, their hands shaking. "Judgment." Kael's voice echoed in the silence that filled the space. "You took the wrong person." Lursk's scales paled as he backed away, but Kael advanced. With a calm that belied the fury within, Kael raised his blaster and fired once, a warning shot that blasted the weapon from Lursk's hand. "Your life," Kael said coldly, "belongs to her now." Amara stepped forward, gazing at the pirate captain who had taken her from her home, who had hurt her, and who had threatened her father. She glanced at her father, seeing the trust in his eyes, knowing he would stand by whatever choice she made. She turned back to Lursk and spoke clearly. "Leave," she said, "and let everyone know that if they come for me again, there will be no mercy." Kael didn't speak, but as he watched Lursk stagger away, he knew the warning was burned into the galaxy's memory. Epilogue. Back aboard the Black Reaver, Kael and Amara stood together, watching the stars drift past. Amara leaned against her father, knowing that she was safe, that he would always come for her. And the galaxy, wiser now, carried a warning etched in blood and fire. Never, under any circumstances, cross Kael Dragan and expect to survive.